Yes, it's now probable to win the game just by casting your commander. All you need is the mana to cast it, and your commander in the command zone, and you can win. Welcome to the Garuda apocalypse. This has been possible in the past, but not probable, meaning before there was a less than 50% chance of this happening, casting your commander and winning. But now there's a greater than 50% chance, and it just keeps getting higher. And while that sounds interesting, and I'll get into the details in a moment, it also belays a very worrying trend under the surface of Magic the Gathering. As record numbers of cards are printed each and every year, we get closer and closer and closer to inevitability. First, the problem, and this one is interesting to explain. So, in the famous manga/anime My Hero Academia, they have a theory called the quirk singularity theory, where each successive generation of havers of superpowers will create more and more powerful beings until there's a generation that's all godlike, leading to the intentional or accidental collapse of society and destroying of the world. I believe this is something that applies to Magic the Gathering too. With each year seeing hundreds of new cards printed, it's only a matter of time until we reach the Garuda apocalypse on a much wider scale. Until cards are printed that are so good, so pushed and tuned that deck building becomes even more homogeneous, and we reach a point where synergy and enabling cards results in more and more commanders that just win the game. We can already see this in CEDH deck building, the highest echelon of cards in the most competitive format. It's getting more and more tuned with the objectively best choice for the 99 of a deck being decided for you just by being in specific colors. Choices aren't from the massive card pool of Magic's history, they're largely meta-dependent choices from a very small selection. A small selection that keeps seeing new versions of cards supplant old ones, or the flex spots for decks by deck variation decreasing. Look at, for instance, the CEDH packages in MOXFIELD. You can build a CEDH deck just by choosing a commander that wins the game and adding the relevant color-related packages and mana. You may have maybe 5 slots in any deck for commander-enabling win cons, but that's about it. And as better and better commanders get printed, and better cards from the 99 get printed, that pool of options gets smaller and smaller. And while you, as a deck builder, has free will and options, it's only a matter of time until certain archetypes and certain commanders become so tuned that deck lists are immutable and inflexible until better cards come along. Take a look at Godo Bandit Warlord as another example of a one-card win commander. Godo tutors up his combo card, Helm of the Host, and all you need to do is equip it to Godo the turn that you cast it, and you win. You move to combat, Godo makes a copy of himself with the Helm of the Host, who tutors a new equipment to play, but you can attack with that copy right away. And that copy gets you an additional combat, which creates a new copy with the Helm of the Host Godo, which gets you a new equipment into play, which gets you a new combat, ad nauseum. Well, not literally ad nauseum. But this is an example of how an old commander gets broken by a new card. And as new cards are being printed en masse, we get more and more opportunities for old cards to be broken like this, and we get more and more opportunities for consistency to be improved to the point where there's no flexibility, and gameplay is linear. What this means is redundancy is only getting better, and when redundancy gets better, consistency improves. I have multiple videos on this concept you can check out on the channel right now if you want more on this topic. At what point will cards get printed to where redundancy and consistency creates the perfect confluence of optimal, to where just casting your commander wins the game, to where a deck becomes so consistent there's no play pattern to it anymore? That question isn't rhetorical. We're now at that point and past the event horizon. We're living in the Garuda apocalypse. And I may be hyperbolic about this, but it's for good reason. We officially have our first ever commander that wins just by casting it more often than not, and it just so happens to be my favorite commander, Garuda Doom of Depths. And Garuda is the perfect proof point for this concept. See, Garuda mills 4 cards on enters from all players and reanimates one of them with an even mana value back to play. This can be the best thing your opponents mill or the best thing you mill. What you can do is chain this effect by reanimating an even mana value clone from your own milled cards. It enters as a copy of Garuda, puts its trigger on the stack, and in many cases is immediately sacrificed to the legend rule and state-based effects. But you get another trigger. And as long as 1 in 4 cards you mill are likely to be an even mana value clone, you can do this indefinitely. Previously, in order to be statistically possible, you needed to not draw a clone before you cast Garuda. That means in your opening hand or in the extra cards you draw until you actually cast your commander. But with each new even mana value clone printed, we're at 3 so far this year and counting, that statistical possibility has become a statistical probability. If 25% of your deck is made up of even mana value clones, then you have a statistical probability that 1 in 4 cards you mill with each Garuda trigger is a clone that continues that chain. And if more than 25% of your deck is made up of even mana value clones, well, the odds go up and up and up. And if you are more than 25% likely for any single card in your deck to be an even mana value clone, you are statistically probable for it to happen. A greater than 50% chance. This doesn't mean that it's impossible to whiff on a flip. My luck definitely shows otherwise. But we are currently sitting at a likelihood of flipping a coin to win the game just by casting Garuda from the command zone. And that should be scary to everyone. When you add in reshuffle effects like Eldrazi Titan, the possibility goes up, and your risk of losing to your own mill effects goes down and down. And this is where we're at when it comes to decks, commanders, consistency, and redundancy. It's only going to continue increasing as more and more cards get printed each and every year in each and every set. Now, of course, we all have free will as deck builders and players. We can choose not to play these cards or make our decks less consistent intentionally. Believe it or not, you have the ability to, and are encouraged to, play bad cards if you enjoy them. That's fun, and some of my recent brews have just been finding uses for badcards.deck. But for as many of you with the willpower to say no to building a broken deck or making your brews so consistent and redundant that there's really no play pattern to them, there are many players that will do it, and in fact are eager to do it. And isn't that the real concern? That you know what will be in the 99 of any given Goblin deck, and you'll know what the 99 of any given Edgar Markov deck will look like immediately without even giving it the benefit of the doubt. Is that the game we all want to be playing? Because that's the game that we are all eventually marching towards. What do we do about it, you may ask? Well, we can't stop the endless tide of new cards. That's on Wizards. For them to realize that increasing the number of sets and cards each year is untenable for this or any format and is alienating their own enfranchised player base. It may be years or another decade before all of this comes to pass, but it is an inevitability. What we can do is retain our originality, our uniqueness in deck building. Play with bad cards, do something different, build theme decks, restrict yourself to lower brackets or lower budgets if you want to avoid the kind of trap, that eventuality, that inevitability that lays ahead of us. Or don't, I'm not your father. With all of that being said, I do want to espouse my love for Garuda Doom of Depths. It is my pride, my joy, my fully foiled out masterpiece, and at this stage the only CEDH deck in my roster. Yes, I said CEDH. This deck has put up results in CEDH events and is consistent to the point where it cannot be played at lower brackets. So why not lean into that? This means fast mana to get Garuda out as soon as possible. Mana Vault, Pro Mox, and Ancient Tomb. You're relying on casting a 6 mana value spell. You need to do it on, like, turn 2 ideally. Just imagine if we had Mana Crypt and Jeweled Lotus still in the format. But it also means a lot of counter magic. Force of Will, Mana Drain, Swan Song, all options to protect your 6 mana value commander. Do not get blown out by letting someone counter Garuda. Considering there are scant few options for countering creature spells in CEDH, being armed with some of these cheap interaction options is ideal. And that's really everything that makes this deck CEDH. Everything else is unique to this deck and your goal of winning with Garuda. And while I can shout out some of the things that help you win if you fail popping off to the initial Garuda cast, like Saw in Half or Animate Dead, the real shout out for unique cards in the deck goes to cards that make Garuda a 100% win, or a 1.5 card combo. Enter Doublers. Panharmonicon is CEDH qualified in this brew, so is Roaming Throne, so is the new Starfield Vocalist. But how? See, since Garuda has a 1 in 4 chance to hit an even mana value clone on any individual trigger of 4 cards, each extra card flip, in this case 8 with an effect doubler, doubles that chance. That brings the 25% chance of hitting a clone in 4 cards to almost a 100% chance of hitting a clone in 8 cards. Your odds don't increase, but your tries at hitting that 25% increase to the point where it is inevitable due to the saturation of cards in your deck. And since looking at those 8 cards is across 2 triggers, you also have a chance of hitting a clone in each of those triggers, getting 2 more triggers, causing an exponential cascade of mill triggers. So ideally, you can drop one of these trigger doublers before casting Garuda, since they all cost less mana than our commander, then drop Garuda and simply win. Notably, an enchantment like Mortuary turns Garuda and any single clone effect into an infinite loop, as long as you let the original Garuda die to the legend rule and have Mortuary put it back on top of your library, so that the clone's trigger reveals Garuda. And it's a 100% assured way to win. Another 1.5 card combo in this deck. Neat! We can include Kozilek, Butcher of Truth in the deck to ensure that we can continue to loop over and over and never mill ourselves out, reaching an end state where we have milled every card in our opponent's libraries and simply pass the turn. They lose not being able to draw a card. And half the time, we can do this just by casting our commander with no other help. And before I list all 25 even mana value clones, there are a few extra non-clone creatures in the deck for very good reason. Like Baleful Strix, Dark Confidant, and Keen Duelist, all aimed to come down early and get you some extra card draw before popping off with your commander. And importantly, Psychic Frog. Psychic Frog also helps you draw cards on combat damage, but importantly lets you discard cards from your hand at will. This means if you've drawn any of your clones, you can pitch them at will to either shuffle them back into your library or potentially reanimate them. Anytime we need to manually cast a clone to copy Garuda and keep the chain going, you want to pay as little mana as possible for it. And keeping the chain going works here too. If we whiff on hitting a clone, we have blink creatures we could grab instead. Thassa Deep Dwelling and the new Y'shtola Rule both blink Garuda for more triggers. Thassa is as good as any clone in the deck, giving you the same equivalent of 1 extra Garuda trigger, but Y'shtola is essentially as good as 2 clones on her own, giving you 2 end steps and 2 blinks. Sometimes you want to prioritize Y'shtola over any regular clone flipped from a Garuda trigger. The bulk of the remaining deck is, of course, clones. Low mana value clones like Deceptive Frostkite, Flesh Duplicate, and Phantasmal Image, all being the best option if you need to hard cast a clone from your hand to keep a Garuda trigger going. And we have several clones that don't die to the legend rule, like both Flavors of Sakashima and Spark Double. Because they either become non-legendary clones or they have their own names, it means Garuda or they don't die to state-based effects, and in some situations makes them worse options than regular clones if you want them dying. The new Chameleon Master of Disguise falls into this category too. Like the original Sakashima, he keeps his own name, being a Garuda in text box only. Still gets you that sexy mill trigger though. The rest of the clones are certainly here too, like nice vanilla clones like OG Clone, Clever Impersonator, or Phyrexian Metamorph. And Evil Twin, Stunt Double, and Gigantoplasm, all with gimmicks that we really don't care about or really don't use in the deck's concept. Or clones with gimmicks that we may actually use, like Copy Crook, Undercover Operative, or Visage Bandit. I like the Bandit a lot since you can plot it to recast it the turn you get Garuda into play, and again, makes for almost a 100% certain way to continue that chain. Then there's clones that are just as useful in the graveyard, like Naga Fleshcrafter, Mirror Hall Mimic, or Vizier of Many Faces. If you flip them and don't cast them, they have their uses just by being in the yard. If you flip them and let them die to the legend rule, they're just as useful too. And cheers to Wax and Shape Thief as well. It has flash just like Stunt Double, but with the upside of also having cycling. It means that you can choose to get it out of your hand and into the yard to be reshuffled or reanimated. On that note, jeers to Sakashima Student and Wall of Stolen Identity, some of the only clones that don't have foil versions yet. And then there's the 6 mana value clones, Calidus Assassin, Sakashima's Protege, and Auton Soldier. They all do the job, and if Auton Soldier ever gets to attack, let me tell you that's game over. But it's all of these little interactions that make me love this deck, and make it a labor of love to have kept updating it with every new clone that's released. Over the last 2 years or so, it's evolved significantly from a deck that just wants all of your Garudas to stay in play to a deck that just wants to flip clones all day long. Both options are great, both are awesome, but it's a deck that values getting more and more consistent with each and every even mana value clone that's printed. And it's the poster child for the eventual and inevitable attrition of this game. Archetypes will get better and better. Objectively best card choices will continue to grow, and people will choose to lose the flexibility and creativity born from this format. I hope that does not happen, but at this rate, the rate that new cards are printed, it'll happen inside this decade. Let me know what you think about the state of the format, about this deck, and about winning just by casting your commander. My full Too Many Garudas deck list is linked in the description. And don't leave without checking out my sponsors like Card Conduit. They are hands down the easiest way to sell your individual Magic cards without the hassle of traditional buy listing. They'll get you top dollar while handling all of the heavy lifting, from sorting to grading to optimizing your price across a huge network of vendors. And they'll give you cold hard cash for it. You can use the promo code MECHANIC right now for 10% off of all fees. If you're looking for a new deck box or playmat for any of your favorite commander decks, make sure to check out Bonebox Games. These strong and gorgeous deck boxes are the only ones I trust to protect my triple-sleeved, all-foil Too Many Garudas deck. You can use my code MECHANIC5 for 5% off your order at boneboxgames.com. And while you're there, take a look at their classic Decay deck box, now back in stock. Bonebox Games, gear with a backbone. And if you want to pick up the cards for this list, make sure to go check out Card Trader. Use my promo code MECHANIC right now for 5% off your order from any TCG. Card Trader's zero system means you can get cards from all over the world with only one shipping fee. Save money and time today. Lastly, you can check out all of my decks on MOXFIELD. MOXFIELD is the best deck building platform in the world and makes it easy to build decks and search for specific cards with their powerful tools. Have you checked out their drag and drop feature yet? It's revolutionary. Be sure to check out my brews and follow my profile there right now. If you were inspired to brew today, you have to hit that subscribe button. Check out this other deck on my channel right now for more sweet tech. And as always folks, good luck and have fun.